Imagine standing in a city unlike any you've ever seen. A city of water and stone, alive with the pulse of thousands. The year is 1519, and you are not in Europe, not in Asia, but in the heart of the Valley of Mexico, where a civilization has carved an empire from the very marshes of the lake. I'm Arthur, and today we will step into the world of Tenochtitlan, not as a distant observer, but as if we could glide through its streets, touch its temples, and hear the rhythm of its marketplaces. From above, the city sprawls like a jewel in the center of Lake Texcoco. Islands, both natural and man-made, interlace in a lattice of canals and causeways. At its core, the Templo Mayor towers, twin stairways climbing to meet the sky. Surrounding it, neighborhoods hum with life children dart between houses, artisans carve stone, and merchants shout their wares across bustling plazas. The city is not just inhabited, it is orchestrated, a testament to the ingenuity and ambition of the Mexica people. Before we wander these streets, pause for a moment and look back nearly 2 centuries. In 1325, a prophecy guided the Mexica to this unlikely island. Their journey across the Valley of Mexico had been long and uncertain, yet they carried a vision of divine instruction. According to legend, the gods commanded them to settle where they would see an eagle perched on a prickly pear cactus, devouring a serpent. In that moment, the swampland transformed from inhospitable marsh to sacred foundation. What seems like a random choice to outsiders was, to the Mexica, the heartbeat of destiny. Here they began to build not just a city but an empire. By 1519, that empire had reached staggering scale. The population is estimated to have been between 200,000 and 300,000, making Tenochtitlan one of the largest cities in the world at that time. The canals that crisscross the city are more than waterways. They are streets, highways for the transport of goods, people, and ideas. Canoes glide silently alongside wooden bridges, which rise and fall to accommodate the ebb and flow of commerce. Main canals are wide enough to carry enormous stone sculptures, while narrower channels wind through residential zones, connecting homes and gardens. And then there are the chinampas, the so-called floating gardens, rectangular plots of fertile soil, anchored by willow trees, layered with mud and vegetation, and separated by canals for canoe access. These were the lifeblood of the city, producing multiple harvests each year: maize, beans, squash, peppers, flowers. Entire neighborhoods rest upon these artificial islands, a fusion of agriculture and urban planning. The ingenuity is breathtaking, a city literally built to float and flourish upon water. Now focus on the Templo Mayor, the religious and political heart of Tenochtitlan. Rising 60 meters above the sacred precinct, it dominates the skyline. Its twin shrines are deliberate contrasts. The northern blue temple honors Tlaloc, god of rain and agriculture. The southern red temple venerates Huitzilopochtli, god of war and the sun. This duality is the Mexica vision, made physical, balance, sacrifice, and cosmic order embodied in stone. Each ascent of the stairways, each ritual performed at the summit, reinforces the power of the gods and the state simultaneously. The sacred precinct surrounding the Templo Mayor is a city within the city. Over 70 structures, from temples to schools for priests, ceremonial platforms, and administrative halls, encircle the main pyramid. Stone carvings depict deities and myths. The dismembered goddess Tlatelolco sprawled at the base, her story replayed daily in ritual sacrifice. For the Mexica, these rituals are not brutality, they are cosmic necessity. Hearts removed and cast down the temple steps symbolize life given to the gods to sustain the sun and the world itself. To outsiders, it may seem horrifying, but for the people here, it is the rhythm of the universe. Beyond the precinct, Moctezuma II's palace stretches across multiple courtyards and gardens, a sprawling complex of governance, ceremony, and display. Within its walls, treasures flow from across the empire: gold, jade, feathers, cacao, textiles. Spanish conquistadors would later describe it as surpassing anything they had seen in Europe, a palace of wonders and an emblem of imperial reach. And yet, the palace is more than opulence. It is the nerve center of power, where decisions ripple across hundreds of miles of tributary states. Venture now into the great market of Tlatelolco, a heartbeat of economic vitality. On major market days, as many as 60,000 people gather. Stalls overflow with goods, gold and jade, exotic feathers, pottery, cloth, cacao, and livestock. Merchants call across the plaza, buyers haggle, officials monitor transactions and enforce order. This is commerce elevated to spectacle, a daily display of the empire's wealth and reach. Every transaction reinforces the Mexica control over tribute, trade, and allegiance. Yet water remains both foundation and challenge. The Mexica engineers have constructed a 16-kilometer-long dike, channeling fresh water while keeping the lake's brackish waters at bay. Aqueducts carry drinking water from distant springs, clay pipes distribute it throughout neighborhoods, and canals manage floodwaters with meticulous precision. Without this hydraulic mastery, Tenochtitlan could not exist, and its absence would render the city a swamp rather than a metropolis. And then, as we glide through these streets and plazas, imagine the horizon darkening with sails and armor. In 1519, Hernán Cortés and his soldiers enter the city via the southern causeway. Their first glimpse of Tenochtitlan is disbelief. They compare it to Venice and Seville combined. Even seasoned warriors are awed by the scale, order, and sophistication. Moctezuma receives them with ceremony, gifts, and hospitality. Yet beneath this polite surface, tension simmers. The Spaniards are few but armed with steel, gunpowder, and horses. They form alliances with subject peoples who chafe under Mexica rule. The seeds of disaster are already sown. The following months escalate in a dance of diplomacy and violence. In 1520, at the Templo Mayor, a massacre of nobles during a sacred festival ignites the city. Moctezuma attempts to calm the populace but fails. Spanish forces retreat under cover of night, looted gold weighing down their boats. Hundreds drown as causeway bridges are destroyed. This night, later remembered as La Noche Triste, marks the beginning of the city's unraveling. By 1521, Cortés returns with a massive army, tens of thousands strong, cutting aqueducts and controlling access to food. Smallpox spreads like fire, claiming thousands, including Emperor Cuitlahuac. The Mexica resist fiercely, defending each street, canal, and causeway. Starvation, disease, and overwhelming force reduced the city to rubble. After 93 days, the siege ends in surrender. Temples are torn down, palaces burned, canals filled, and the city is systematically erased. Tenochtitlan, a marvel of human ingenuity, is no more. The fall of Tenochtitlan does not mark the end of its story. It begins a new, hidden chapter beneath the streets of Mexico City. The Spanish, relentless in their vision of conquest, used the stones of temples and palaces to build churches and government buildings. Canals were filled to create streets. The lake that had sustained life and commerce slowly vanished, drained to make way for dry land. What was once a city alive with water, gardens, and commerce became a foundation for colonial ambition. Yet, beneath this imposed modernity, fragments of the Mexica world endured, waiting to be rediscovered centuries later. In 1978, during routine electrical work near the Zocalo, workers unearthed a massive stone disc depicting Coyolxauhqui, the dismembered moon goddess. This accidental discovery ignited a series of archaeological excavations, revealing the Templo Mayor and confirming the sacred center of Tenochtitlan. Suddenly, what had been legend, buried under layers of colonial streets and concrete, became tangible. Imagine walking now through the modern city, knowing the ground beneath you holds the bones of an empire. Every avenue, every plaza, follows patterns laid centuries ago. The southern causeway to Iztapalapa roughly traces today's Calzada de la Viga. The western causeway to Tlacopan is mirrored in streets of Tupa. Modern Mexico City, sprawling and chaotic, still echoes the rhythm of its past. Beneath towering skyscrapers and crowded markets, the foundations of temples, palaces, and canals whisper of an extraordinary civilization. And yet, standing on these streets, it is impossible not to feel both awe and sorrow. The Mexica did not merely inhabit this space, they transformed it. They carved order from marsh, built architecture aligned with the cosmos, engineered agriculture to feed hundreds of thousands, and orchestrated rituals that made the invisible visible. Every stone of the Templo Mayor, every bridge over a canal, every floating garden was a testament to human ingenuity. And in less than a generation, much of it was swept away. The remnants that survive today, however, are more than ruins. They are touchstones for imagination. Chinampas still exist in Xochimilco, a living link to pre-Hispanic agriculture, UNESCO protected and tended with the same knowledge passed down through generations. The Templo Mayor excavations reveal 7 distinct construction phases, each layer telling a story of expansion, triumph, and devotion. Artifacts of jade, gold, and pottery provide insight into the lives of people who built, worshipped, and governed in ways that still challenge our understanding of urban sophistication. Reflecting on Tenochtitlan is to reflect on what it means to build a civilization. This was a city that thrived against its environment, where human will reshaped lakes into streets, gardens into neighborhoods, and belief into architecture. Its collapse reminds us of fragility, not because the people were weak, but because the forces of disease, conquest, and disruption can undo even the most brilliant human achievement. Yet in that fragility lies enduring inspiration. The Mexica vision continues to resonate, teaching us the power of ingenuity, the weight of culture, and the necessity of remembrance. Walking through the modern Zocalo, you might not notice the past beneath your feet. But archaeologists, historians, and reconstruction specialists have worked tirelessly to make it visible. Virtual reconstructions, detailed maps, and AI-generated imagery allow us to traverse streets that haven't existed for 5 centuries, to witness markets alive with trade, to ascend the Templo Mayor, to glide along the canals, and to glimpse the imperial palace in all its grandeur. This is not fantasy. It is history, made experiential, connecting imagination with evidence, presence with memory. The story of Tenochtitlan is also a story of cultural endurance. Despite conquest and colonization, Mexica traditions, myths, and knowledge survived. The legend of the eagle on the cactus endures on the Mexican flag. The spiritual significance of the Templo Mayor, the rituals, the calendar, the alignment with the cosmos, these elements continue to inform identity and cultural memory. And the very streets, canals, and waterways of modern Mexico City are silent testaments to the engineering genius that once defined the city. Consider the human scale for a moment, walking the narrow lanes between neighborhoods, passing through bridges over busy canals, witnessing children darting between houses, merchants haggling across marketplaces. This was everyday life, not grandeur alone, but daily rhythm, domestic labor, celebration, and struggle. The Mexican Empire was lived, experienced, and remembered in thousands of small moments, every one of them contributing to the collective story. These layers of life give texture to what might otherwise be reduced to ruins and stone. And so, when we peer through modern reconstructions or AI renderings, we are not merely spectators. We are participants in a narrative that spans centuries. We glide through plazas alive with music and commerce, pause to witness rituals at the Templo Mayor, and stand on the edges of canals that once carried life itself. We sense the awe, the devotion, the pride, and the tragedy. We feel the weight of conquest, the shock of disease, the desperation of siege, and the final quiet of a city buried under time. But Tenochtitlan was not lost entirely. Every surviving artifact, every reconstructed canal, every pattern of modern streets offers a lesson. Civilizations rise, adapt, and fall, but their influence can persist in ways both tangible and invisible. It reminds us that human ingenuity is never fully extinguished, that culture leaves traces even when structures are torn down, and that the past can always be recovered, reimagined, and honored. Standing today in Mexico City, the layers of history are evident, even if unseen. Beneath the colonial cathedrals and government buildings lie foundations of temples, marketplaces, and palaces. Water still shapes the valley subtly. The land continues to sink, a quiet echo of the lake that once defined this place. The spirit of Tenochtitlan, its engineering genius, its devotion, its daily life, its tragedies and triumphs, endures in memory, in art, in archaeology, and in imagination. This city teaches us that what humans can envision, they can build even on marshes, even under impossible conditions, even against overwhelming odds. Tenochtitlan was a symphony of urban planning, agricultural innovation, and spiritual devotion. a city alive with movement, ritual, and ambition. And though conquest tried to erase it, its story persists. It persists in every stone, every canal that remains, every market tradition, every artifact recovered from the sacred precinct, every legend told, and every modern reconstruction that allows us to step into the past. As we close this journey, imagine gliding one final time over the canals, moving through bustling plazas, ascending the Templo Mayor, and pausing to see the city from above. Sense the rhythm of life, the merchants, the priests, the children, the warriors, and then watch it fade under siege, disease, and conquest. Yet, even as the water drains and the city disappears beneath colonial streets, know that it is not gone entirely. It lives in fragments, in memory, and in our imagination, waiting for anyone willing to look closely, to reconstruct, and to remember. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Tenochtitlan. From its miraculous founding on a marshy island, to its peak of urban and spiritual grandeur, to its tragic fall and partial rebirth beneath modern Mexico City, the city tells a story of ambition, ingenuity, devotion, and resilience. A story that invites us not only to learn, but to imagine, to feel, and to step into history as if it were alive. And now, as you walk the streets of Mexico City, remember, beneath every stone, beneath every avenue, lies a city that once defied the impossible and a civilization that dared to dream.